I found this a highly entertaining novel, The Beetle by Richard Marsh. I never read a novel with 3 different genres in it. Hi, I'm Annie and it is Horror Mayhem. This is a reading event that's all about the reading of horror novels. And what better way to enjoy this reading event by reading The Beetle by Richard Marsh. But it is also, The Beetle is also the pick of Michael Gavon's mummy, Roger, as he has Roger's cheap old book club. And as The Beetle is published back in 1897, it is free and available on Project Gutenberg. So that is cheap indeed. The story is about 4 people who have to deal with a mysterious ancient Egyptian entity. The story is told in 4 parts. The first part is all about Robert Holt, a man who has become so incredibly poor that he has no food and no place to stay, and he can't even get into some poor house lodgings. I don't know exactly what they were called, but you had these houses where poor people could spend the night, but he isn't even allowed in them. And then he comes at a mysterious abandoned house. Or abandoned? Is it abandoned? Well, you have to find out. Read the Beetle to find out. This part of the novel is pure horror, and I found it just excellently written. This is really a suspenseful part in the book. The second part is all about this inventor, Sidney Atherton, and he is on the verge of inventing a weapon of mass destruction. This part of the novel is pure humor. Sidney Atherton has a real dry sense of humor. I think this sort of saves him from being a real unsympathetic character, because who on earth likes an inventor of a mass destruction weapon? I don't. But this was really interesting. I think the reason to make him an inventor of weapons of mass destruction may be some sort of satire. This novel was published in 1897, like I said. This was during the time of the Second Industrial Revolution. But this was a time where there were a lot of inventions and technological advancements, but there were also technological advancements made in warfare. Think of the invention of the Maxim machine gun that was invented 13 years before the Beetle was published. This was a machine gun that made killing more people so much more efficient. And then 6 years before the Beetle was published, a German inventor invented TNT, the explosive, which made it safe for own troops to use it and caused a lot more damage to the troops of the enemy. So this, I think, maybe these inventions had something to do with why Marsh made this character, Sidney Atherton, an inventor of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, and why he made this humorous part in the book. And he is absolutely poking fun at the way Atherton does his inventions. and such things. I'm convinced this must be some sort of satire. The third part is about Marjorie Linden, the love interest of Sidney Atherton and his rival Paul Lessingham, but more about him later on in this video. In this part, the horror and suspense in the story comes back. Although I must admit in one or two occasions the humor sort of spoils the horror and suspense a bit, but I think there are only 1, 2 max occasions where this is happening in this story, and it doesn't really bother me that much. Marjorie Linden is a really interesting character. She is not your usual passive damsel in distress. She has a strong will and stands up against her father. And she does what she wants. She's not afraid of speaking her mind and doesn't conform to societal expectations. She can be seen as the embodiment of the new woman. In the late 19th century, the new woman was a feminist ideal, and these women challenged traditional gender roles and sought greater social and personal freedom. So Marjorie is a very, very independent lady, but she also shows to be very vulnerable, and I think this gives her more depth. The last part is all about Paul Lessingham, a seemingly cool politician who wants to marry Marjorie Linden, but his past comes to haunt him. But this part isn't told by Lessingham himself. The story of the politician is told by confidential agent Augustus Chamnell. And this part is a true detective story. And the hunt for the Beetle is on in this part. I could analyze Lessingham's part in this character in this part of the novel, but I don't want to spoil the story for you. But in this part in the story, you can see a glimpse of the change in the way people thought about politicians in the late 19th century, late Victorian times. Politicians were no longer distant figures, and they were absolutely held accountable for their action by a more critical public eye. And that's why in the first instance Lessingham is so worried about his reputation. He has to keep his head cool and not show his mental instabilities. But maybe I'm reading more into this than I ought to. I don't know. But this is really interesting. The story has 4 protagonists, 5, including Augustus Chamnell, and they are all battling the Beetle in their own way. And none of them know exactly how, but they do it anyway. The only thing I would have liked to see a bit more different is the ending. This could have been written different, I thought. I won't go into much detail about it as I don't want to spoil the plot. But all in all, I think this was just, I like this story very, very much. But I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that there are some racial stereotypes in this novel. But hey, it was written back in Victorian times, the times of the Great British Empire, the empire where the sun never sets, and this was a time of colonialism. Well, of colonies. Well, you know what I mean. So you have to that was the way people wrote back then. But all in all, I can highly recommend The Beetle if you like Victorian fiction, and if you don't mind the mixing of different genres. Let me know in the comments if you read this novel and what you think of it. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope to see you in the next one. As always, thanks for watching.